I did it.
Okay, did it work?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, call the meeting to order, 10:36 a.m. We'll begin with the territorial acknowledgement. So pursuant to Federation Policy 50, Indigenous Engagement and Inclusivity, the Federation of Students Council acknowledges the University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldeman Tract, land promised to the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Moving on to the rest of the council agenda, we'll begin with the ratification of society and pro tem designates. There, in addition to what you have seen on the agenda, the ratification of Vincent will also be ratifying Lily and Abigail. So Evelyn, actually, Megan, would you be able to type up some motions for me? The motion should read, whereas the Art Student Union has selected, oh my goodness, I'm going to need to grab your last names. I've just kept calling you Lily and Abigail. Sorry about that, friends. Let me grab this now. Wouldn't it be nice if John was here? You don't need to minute that. I'm going to throw the names in the chat for you, Megan. Also, everyone give them a very warm welcome. Whereas the Art Student Union has selected Lily Abate and Abigail D'Souza to fill a vacant seat on the WUSA Council for the remainder of the governing year, then be it resolved, Council ratifies the members as pro tem councillor for the Arts constituency for the winter 2021 term as selected by the Art Student Union.
It looks like Evelyn has the typing under control, but I just requested access to the Google Doc. If anyone can grant me that, then I can type up anything that comes up going forward.
Great. While you're getting that typed up, we'll begin with the ratification of the pro tem mathematics counselor. So I'll read that for everyone, and then we'll take it on consensus. So whereas the Mathematics Society has selected Vincent Macri to fill a vacant seat on the WUSA Council for the remainder of the governing year, then be it resolved that Council ratifies Vincent as pro tem counselor for the Mathematics constituency for the winter 2021 term as selected by the Mathematics Society. I guess I'll just, do I need a seconder for that, I assume?
I'll second.
Thanks, Catherine. We'll move on to the voting portion, which is the most fun part. All those opposed, you can indicate so in the chat. Any abstentions? Okay, seeing none, I'll take that on consensus and that passes. Welcome, Vincent, to council. Very excited to have you here if you are in fact on the line or on the call. It looks like we also have up on your screen right now the Art Student Union representatives. So whereas the Art Student Union has selected Lily and Abigail to fill a vacant seat on the WUSA Council for the remainder of the governing year. And what is it? Yeah, well, I'll do a separate motion for that, but be it resolved, Council ratifies Lily and Abigail as pro tem counselors for the Arts constituency for the winter 2021 term as selected by the Arts Student Union. Megan, would you like me to wait for you? Okay. Nada, you go ahead.
It's pronounced Abate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, Nada. Yeah, correction to that, Lily Abate. Thank you. And did I get Abigail D'Souza right? I'm going to take that as a yes because no one unmuted. I'll read that again with the correct pronunciation of the last name. So be it resolved that Council ratifies Lily Abate and Abigail D'Souza as pro tem councillors for the Arts constituency for the winter 2021 term as selected by the Arts Student Union. Can I get a seconder? Vicky Aikino seconds. And all those opposed? Any abstentions? Please indicate in the chat. All right, I will take that then. And we have 3 new members of council. So I don't know if everyone wants to do a little bit of a round of applause while you're on mute, but thank you so much for joining us today. With that being said, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. So are there any changes that need to be made to the agenda? Any typos you see from me being new to putting together an agenda? Anything in the wrong place? Oh, Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, do you know if John wanted to move something? Because it looks like he put his name in here on the speaking order.
Oh,
He sent a message.
where did he send a message?
He says, Abby, I am here in a limited capacity as I'm calling in on my phone. I'll update as soon as I know when I have my power back. I have nothing to move.
Oh, he just wanted to speak. Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
Okay, then I have nothing to add.
Great, so a bunch of confusion there. All right, then we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. So be it resolved that council approves the agenda as presented, and I will assume this and we'll move on to the approval of the minutes, which we have none, and we'll receive them at the February meeting. We will then move on to the items for adoption by consent, and again, there are none. So then we will start with executive reports, which means we'll start with myself. I don't think I have anything to add in addition to my report. I know that there were some questions about the President's Anti-Racism Task Force. I think I did my best to answer them, but just in the interest of if anyone else is wondering, if you've taken a look at my report, we've appointed 5 students to the 5 working groups. And if you have any questions about PART, I will most likely direct you to the website that the university has put together. And then if you have any questions about what you're reading there, or if anything is confusing, I would be happy to work with NADA to bring forward your concerns to the appropriate people within the university to clarify that for you and then come back with any answers. So that's probably the best answer you're going to receive for right now, as we're still trying to learn kind of how these different working groups will work with the university. But other than that, I do not believe I have anything in addition to my written report to add. So I will take any questions now. I'll also note I put the link to the PART website from the university in the chat if you want to take a look at that. It looks like Nick has a question, and Nick, I'll take your question.
Hello. So I was reading a report, and I know in this section where you talk about your discussions with the university about grading, you mentioned compassionate. What was it? Let's see, compassionate grading discussions. I just want to know what that might entail. Like, what is what's compassionate grading in particular?
Yeah. So the kind of phrasing of compassionate grading refers to a lot of calls from students for the credit, no credit. So we've called it compassionate grading. Megan and I have put an update out. You may have received an email from Megan about that, and our, I would say, inability to, or not, the university's inability to move forward with any of our proposed changes. Megan, I don't know if you want to put things in better words than I can about what compassionate grading is and what exactly we asked for, but I'll give you the floor now if you'd like to.
Sure, yeah, I'll just give a quick summary, and then if folks have questions, I'm happy to elaborate more now or under my report. So numerous institutions across the province, country, and continent have implemented like additional credit and no credit options for students as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And our discussions with the university have resulted in an, I don't want to say inability, but an unwillingness to implement additional credit and no credit options for students. And they suggested that the existing petition process will serve to meet the needs of students who experienced extenuating circumstances as a result of COVID-19. So we sent out a communication to that effect. And that's kind of where we're at now. So I'm happy to take questions. I guess we'll go to Nick.
All right. Well, thank you for that description. I was just a little confused at the meaning, but is there any particular like specific reason why the university isn't willing to implement this? Because I personally haven't seen any specifics on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think the university or us has put out much communications on the matter. In summary, the reason why they're unwilling to implement it is because they feel that it would create unfair situations for students. So for example, a student who chose to take a break or take a reduced course load, not knowing that credit, no credit options would be implemented, or a student who kind of worked really hard and overcame the odds and got really good grades would feel kind of wronged by seeing their peers taking credit or no credit on a course and essentially removing a course from their average. So in our discussions with the university, those were some of the examples of unfair situations that are created by giving additional credit, no credit options that they gave to us.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much.
We'll go to Cannon.
I was just wondering, did the Bomber Space launch plan pass at that Building and Properties Committee or whatever the university has?
Thank you for that question, Cannon. So actually, it didn't come to this meeting of Buildings and Properties and will come for e-vote at some time in the next few weeks, just to allow members a little more time to read the proposal and ask any questions. But I'll provide an update once we have approval.
Thank you.
It looks like next is Catherine. So Catherine, go ahead.
I realize this maybe should have been a 2, but has there been any movement from the university's end about sort of bulking up the options and support on the petition side for students?
No. So I guess for those unfamiliar, the existing petition process varies a little bit from faculty to faculty, but essentially there is an online form that you fill out where you detail your extenuating circumstance and the accommodation that you're asking for, and then that gets heard by a petition committee. The only sort of piece of information that we've received in relation to that is that the folks who typically sit on these committees and rule on these sorts of decisions are typically fairly compassionate. So in the event of extenuating circumstances that they deem to be kind of, what's the right word here?
Reasonable?
No, not reasonable. I guess in the event of circumstances that they deem to be truly kind of extenuating and out of the student's control, they should be, I guess, ruling favorably and taking into account the situation.
It looks like Catherine's giving some thumbs up, so we'll move on to Cannon again.
I was just following up on the purchase of imprint. Is there any update on when we will start putting up the board publications and all that jazz to like finally start the Eastern publication under VUSA?
Yeah, so we're using the winter term as a transition term to get everything moving with the hiring of the, what have we called it? Publications manager, I believe, is the name of the position. Once we have that hired and are able to kind of really start with the transition, then we will start the publications committee, because it is not a board. The publications committee will then be struck. But for right now, there is, Cannon, if you take a look at the procedure, it gives you a little bit of an understanding of who would be on that interim committee when needed. So if you wanted to take a look at that just for the winter term, as we're trying to figure out kind of best practices, if that makes sense.
It does, thanks.
Yeah, it's mostly just waiting for the finalizing of the hiring, which should happen closer to the end of January. And then we'll kind of hit the ground running from there. So no updates at the moment. I guess last call for questions from the report of the president. Going once, going twice. All right, seeing no, oh, come on, Stephanie. Go ahead, Steph.
Sorry, I was on the other tab reading the agenda. Or, well, your report. Do we have an idea of how many survey responses we've gotten thus far for the accessibility survey?
It's less than 100. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but we've extended the date for the survey and are hoping to do additional pushes to receive more responses from students. So I guess this is kind of a call to everyone on the call here to, yeah, Vicky's saying around 60 in the chat if you take a look there. But this is kind of a plea to everyone on the call to share the accessibility survey around. Ask your friends to fill it out, ask constituents to fill it out. We're hoping to get as many responses as we can to put together a very detailed report on our advocacy for the next few years. So yeah, please take it seriously and please ask people to fill it out. All right, now last call for questions. Going once. Going twice. All right, and now we will move on to the report of the Vice President, Operations and Finance. So Elena, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm trying to save some bandwidth, so that's why my video is not on. I don't have anything to add from my very short report. Yeah, Bomber plan ops felt like an e-vote was sufficient, and that gives us time to personally meet with certain university personnel before the e-vote happens. So this is actually, I think, in our favor. And yeah, I think that's about all the questions that I have answers to that you asked from Abby.
Great, so I'm seeing some questions here. The first one is from Steph. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hi, Lena. So I was wondering if you heard any updates with regards to, I guess like in the announcement for like the stay-at-home order, they had said something along the lines of non-essential construction not occurring. I was wondering, I guess, where the SLC PAC expansion fell in that whole thing.
I have not heard anything along the lines of us not like pausing on that. It's basically done. It's supposed to be open this term, and last I heard it was still on schedule to be open this term, but Abby has something to add. So
yeah, the building is high 90% complete. But I guess in any case, I believe, I can't remember the exact language from the province, but education construction, that doesn't make sense, but universities fall under like a certain, I guess I'm just going to say umbrella of education, and they're not going to take a look at the individual projects to see which one is essential or not. They've kind of just been all deemed as essential, or at least that was my latest understanding of the order, unless things have changed, because I know that there was a miniature announcement yesterday, and I haven't looked at that update, but my understanding is we fall under the, I would say, essential construction umbrella, if that makes sense. I don't know the exact language that the province used, though. Steph, you have a new question or a response?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And my second question, also thank you for responding to the previous question, is, I guess, with regards to the GRT agreement being suspended, like, I guess my understanding of how the agreement works, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, so it relies on mutual agreement to be suspended. I know in the case of like Hamilton and McMaster specifically, they used to have that arrangement, but then their version of GRT decided that they wanted to charge a fee for the term, and that because the contract was already signed and because it was not mutual agreement, then students were charged for the UPass. I'm wondering, I guess, like if we're running that risk as well, given how the legal document is written, and also if Abby, or sorry, not Abby, Alana, or this might extend into Megan, could give any thoughts on like the likelihood that something like that might happen to us?
I think GRT has been very willing thus far to work with us, re the suspension of the agreement. When we discussed the winter term in fall, that was their best option during the discussions. So I think we do have, like, legally, I think we could possibly end up in that same situation as those other schools. But just from the conversations that we've had, I don't see GRT going in that direction. And hopefully, this is really only a problem for like 1 or 2 more terms. I'm also having discussions with Mike, who's on this call, about the spring term and potentially, like, if we can figure out refunds for the spring term because there's less students or not. We're thinking about it. We're trying to figure it out. We haven't quite figured it out yet, but yeah, that's where we're at. To answer your question, I don't think GRT will come back at us with that, but I think it definitely is something that is possible to happen in the realm of the agreement and the law.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, sorry, I'm having trouble unmuting. Cannon, go ahead.
This is in regards to what Alana said about this might only be concerned for their spring or maybe fall term. Have you heard anything from the university side about how fall is going to look like? Will it be in person? Will it be hybrid? Will it be online?
I think Abby would be better, or Megan would be better to answer this. I know I have not had any conversations where the university has given me any hints as to what the next terms are going to look like, but Megan seems to have an answer.
Yeah, Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, at this point, the universities have kind of set guidelines and left it down to the faculty level to determine what activities are going to be like on campus. So, faculty of science can decide which labs they want to bring on campus. Engineering can decide if their FYDP students come on campus, etc. So I would say likely for spring and fall term, we should expect status quo where depending on the health situation, the faculties will make their own decisions about bringing certain courses onto campus. But again, to echo what Alana said, we haven't heard any formal announcement. This is just kind of my understanding of the current situation and what I would expect the university to do.
Thank you,
And
Megan.
I guess I'll add that I don't have any additional information from what Megan has said. The university is hopeful about the vaccine rollout. We'll see how that goes. But I don't think that means that we'll be in any different kind of situation in the fall term, but just, I guess, sharing more of what I've heard. Are there any further questions for the Vice President, Operations and Finance? All right, going once, going twice. All right, we'll move on to the report of the Vice President, Education. Go ahead, Megan.
Excellent. So in addition to my written report, I just wanted to note that I did one media activity. I did an interview that went up on a news story about credit, no credit, or compassionate grading. I got a good response, I guess, to the press release that we put out about that. Usually we don't get such an immediate response from news when we're talking about things in my portfolio, so that was great to see. An update to the discussion which was raised at council about early access to courses on Learn. So I had several conversations with the Associate Vice President Academic of the university, David DeViti, about this. And he basically said that instructors feel like they're under a lot of pressure right now, so they don't want to kind of make instructors feel like they should be trying to get their course content out early by giving students early access to their Learn course across the board. However, it has been added to the Keep Learning website, which is kind of the place where the university has placed all their like tips and tricks and recommendations for remote delivery. So instructors can now read that this is something that students find helpful, and it's something that they can request. So I don't think that the university will budge on making it kind of more mandatory or automatic. So I would consider that pretty much closed. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention under my report is an organization called the Coalition Against Streaming in Education. So this is an advocacy organization that's kind of a coalition of a number of people from different groups, and they are advocating against streaming in education. So if anyone is not familiar, in Ontario at least, students were historically streamed into either applied or academic stream starting in grade 9 in high school. And this essentially dictated students' post-secondary pathway, whether they were going to go to university or to college or into the workforce, that sort of thing. And the idea behind this advocacy is that, you know, when you're in grade 8 picking your courses, you probably don't have a good idea of, you know, what it means to go into applied versus academic and what you want to do after secondary school, and everything to that effect. So it's really a piece of the education system that limits students and particularly affects marginalized students who might be encouraged to or self-select to go into the applied stream and then limit their career opportunities. So WUSA has the opportunity to engage with this advocacy organization, but just noting that it kind of falls outside of the specific realm of post-secondary education and kind of into the pathways to post-secondary education sphere. I wanted to get a general feeling from council about if this is something that WUSA should consider pursuing, and if yes, I would work to develop a policy on it, and if no, that is okay. Just wanted to check. So I guess first I'll take questions if anyone has any, and then I'd like to do a bit of a straw poll.
Are there any questions for the Vice President Education? Matthew, go ahead.
I suppose I'll just ask for your thoughts on this then, because my thoughts on streaming were always that it was a flawed system for reasons that impacts marginalized students and can start making those decisions about whether you go to university or college ahead of time. But that doesn't mean I don't think it's that the fix is getting rid of it. I always thought it would be great or more ideal if we had streaming, but it was just more flexible for students in high school. I thought throughout high school, I thought streaming as an idea should be around, just maybe not in its current form. Do you think that doesn't make sense, and that it would make sense for us to be against streaming altogether?
So yeah, I guess I'm not well versed in the research, and my understanding of the advocacy is striving to eliminate streaming in grade 9 and grade 10, and then to keep streaming in grade 11 and grade 12, when in Ontario, those are kind of titled the university and college streams, with the understanding that after a couple years of high school, students are in a better place to make that sort of decision, and it is academically necessary to make that sort of decision. That being said, I, being not that familiar with the research, am kind of mostly going on the opinion of these folks who I've kind of heard a bit of presentation about, and I've spoken with some of the research folks at USA about this concept, and it seems that the research suggests against streaming.
Edward, go ahead.
Hi, Megan.
Go.
No, I'm speaking for the first time this meeting. Anyways.
Great.
I know we're not bound to USA policies, but I'm just curious, is this kind of along the same lines of what was approved during the last USA GA with regards to streaming post-secondary pathways?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just to make sure we're not advocating two different things with two different organizations.
Yeah, I can double check with USA's access paper, but I know that USA is also considering engaging with this organization, so it does align with USA policy.
Good to know. Thanks.
Thanks, Edward. Are there any further questions for the VP Education before she does a straw poll? Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering, I guess, what kind of like resources we'd have to put into this organization, I guess, in terms of this partnership. And I guess like what added, I guess, benefits you see coming out of this versus just our association with USA and then USA deciding to take a stance on it, or USA just doing the thing by itself.
So in joining the organization, we kind of add our voice to the coalition. So kind of, I guess, increasing the number of organizations that support the organization increases the advocacy power that they have when talking to the folks that have the power to make this change. And I would say that the benefit for WUSA joining would be the ability to have more direct involvement. So in joining the coalition, there is then an opportunity to kind of participate in their steering committee or participate in their advocacy committee and engage with that work. I would say that it's kind of relatively unlikely that the VP Education would take the time to do that sort of thing, given the other commitments that come, with the role. So I think that if WUSA did join, it would be in a much more passive respect, which is something that the organization is okay with, and then kind of just gives us the opportunity in the event that we are, perhaps speaking with the relevant minister in the provincial government, or promoting something on social media.
Okay, thank you.
Is he canon?
Go ahead.
I was just wondering what would be the opportunity cost of your time if we think we should be doing this?
I think that given that the commitment is variable and that the I guess like minimum required commitment is relatively small, I think that the opportunity cost is fairly low. Like I would not even quantify it in an hour of my time per week or per month. It's kind of more of like a one-time activity of coordinating the partnership, and then focusing efforts as they are necessary. I guess the other somewhat quantifiable metric which might ought to be considered is bandwidth. So in advocacy, we have limited bandwidth to talk about topics and to inform students about topics. So if this kind of made it onto the list, it's something that we would spend time talking about, and we would then be taking time away from other things. So I guess it could be considered whether this is a top priority or not. And I mean, in terms of advocacy, we always have things that are top priority. So for example, student financial aid is very often a top priority. And although kind of other pieces are also important, we are always going to talk about student financial aid, and other things come in and out.
Catherine, go ahead.
I was wondering, I guess, what the impact we anticipate of joining onto this is. I know that it is in USA's comprehensive access strategy, but as Waterloo Undergraduate Student Association, what can we do to, if we're a part of this? Is it just that sort of, if we're in the right room talking to the right people, we can sort of slip them also? Or is this, we would have to actively be including this in the advocacy we're doing? Because in that case, I'm not sure I see what contribution we can make.
Mm-hmm. I think that one key contribution that WUSA could make is our relationship with our local representatives. So I mean, at this point, our local representatives are not the majority party in government. So they have relatively minimal impact, and I think they already, in fact, support this initiative. But perhaps in the future, after the next election and things kind of shuffle around a little bit, a key point that WUSA brings is that we speak regularly with our local MPPs, and kind of can express to them that this is important to us, which then they can bring back to their caucus in terms of making decisions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any last questions for the VP Education?
So I'm going to put a message in the chat. It says straw poll on moving forward with streaming advocacy. So feel free to give that a thumbs up if you agree. And I'll just leave it at that. Thumbs up if you agree, and I'll kind of gauge based on the number of thumbs up. So I'm good to move on while people kind of put their thumbs up in the chat if anyone has any questions related to my report in general.
Great, I'll do a last call for questions for the VP Education. So going once, going twice. Okay, we'll move on. While people are still thumbsing up, just because we're moving on doesn't mean you can't still give a thumbs up or not. We'll move on to the report of the Vice President Student Life. So Nada, go ahead.
Hello, folks. So I have 3 things to add to my written report. The first one, just as a clarification to the appendix that I attached, titled O-Team Compensation Review. So to give you a little bit of a background on that, this was a report created or gathered by Becky Rue, our orientations manager, after putting out an O-Team compensation survey to previous O-Team members, and this is what came out of it. So it's purely for information. and I invite you to ask any questions that you have. Second thing is that there was one thing missing from the report for January from my personal report, and I will be including that in the February report, so look out for that, which is basically a summary of the end of term reports for our services. Yeah, so they're just being compiled by our services manager and our services support coordinator. So just keep an eye out for that during the February report. And lastly, I just wanted to let you all know that my previous AVP Equity, Omi, has resigned, and that resignation came in December. I have since been in the process of hiring my new AVP Equity and have successfully hired them, and they are Aisha Masood. So if you have any questions about that, or if you'd like to connect with her, it's the same email as Omi's. It's equity@wusa.ca. If you have any questions about equity portfolio or equity priorities, let me know. But if you have any particular questions for the AVP Equity, then you can reach out to them on that. And I welcome questions regarding my report.
I don't have a question, but Nada's discussion of her AVP reminded me that I had asked my AVPs to submit their fall term reports for the January council meeting under the original January council date. So when the council meeting got moved up, they didn't have them done, so we will have them for the February meeting. My apologies for forgetting that.
Thank you, Megan. We'll go Cannon and Alana.
There's a lot of background noise from someone. Okay, perfect. First of all, Nada, thanks for your report. I just had a few questions about the O-Team compensation update. So reading out the comments and even the numbers, out of the 40 people who responded, only 19 felt that the compensation was fair for the responsibilities they had. While it's like pretty close to 50, but it's still under 50%. And the other comments and suggestions, which were related to alternate appreciation and compensation, a lot of them say something about either having more honoraria or more gift cards or more swag and on that lines. But in the end, the I guess conclusion was not to increase the honorarium amounts other than maybe the amount for inflation every year. Could you tell me the reason for that, or just like explain that reason for that, kind of?
Sorry, I'm not sure what your question is. What would you like me to explain?
So, like, more than 50% of people think that the compensation was or is not fair, but in the end, the report concluded that we will not be changing it.
Nada, if you'd like, I can jump in here a little bit. Cannon, there's a lot that goes on when it comes to the decision to compensate a position. In this particular case, there were a lot of comments made by individuals responding to the survey about overall experience. There's also the connection between the different faculties and the cost of the orientation fee, how much we would need to increase that by if the university would allow us to do that. And we've decided that at the moment, the best thing to do for our relationship with the university, and knowing that we don't really know what's happening with the orientation fee for this year, it's best to not make changes to the fee. So that was kind of one of the reasoning behind that. And we can revisit this again once we have more certainty in our role in orientation moving forward. Cannon, go ahead.
So like, while I understand there is uncertainty about if you're gonna have orientation fee this year or not because of the pandemic, but my opinion was this survey was not going to take effect this year anyways. It was going for future years when there wouldn't be no pandemic, hopefully by that time, I'm assuming. On the other hand, while I understand there are a lot of points that do go into considering what roles should be paid, what amount they should be paid, and the experience of the volunteer role, but that doesn't mean that we don't pay a fair and equitable amount for the work that our volunteer, I would say volunteers, but like they are considered part-time roles in a lot of sense already do.
Sorry, can you just repeat like the question that you would like answered, just so that I can, I guess, give you a better answer?
This was more of a comment like to your answer, saying that while I understand that, but I also think it's not unfair, especially when we are starting to pay a lot of our other volunteer roles. Like this term itself, we started to pay our service coordinators. We're advocating for students who sit on university committees to get paid for the work they're doing there, for at least some kind of equitable share. So I think orientation is a place where, in my opinion, the work far exceeds compensation. And I understand the experience itself is a compensation for a lot of people, but we as an organization should be doing well on these student leaders who step up, take the time out of their studies to serve the at-large student body. Like spending 700 hours in a year is a lot of time for a student to do. And my second question was, have we looked into moving away from an honorarium system to maybe a scholarship or award system so that we don't have to deal with the tax part of this?
Nada, do you want to answer that?
If you had an answer already, you can go ahead.
I was just going to say my understanding at the moment is that we'll be moving forward with a bursary for some students. And we're having conversations about the honorarium, but for the most part, we'll be moving forward with kind of the information we have now about what orientation may look like for the fall. I don't think I have any better answer than that. If I would say, like, if council wants us to revisit this conversation in the next governing year, we can. But at the moment, the answer is we're going to create a bursary, and we will continue to kind of evaluate this leadership opportunity in the future.
Thank you, I guess.
Nada, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate what you were saying. That, like, I hear you, Cannon. And if you'd like, and if council supports, there can be another survey or some sort of surveying questions of that sort, which is highly welcomed. This is the report that I presented to you within my report. It's just a conclusion of the survey that was put out to previous OT members.
Thank you, Cannon and Nada. We will move on to Alana.
Hello. So when the previous EVP Equity resigned, they submitted a letter that they asked one of the executives to read out at board and council. Due to some HR related content, I cannot read out word for word what this letter states, but I can give a summary, which is basically that there are a lot of problems within the structure and governance of our organization. A lot of that lies with council and board, and some of these problems lead to an inequitable / intellectually violent I guess, environment for Black and Indigenous students. And that has led to their resignation, and that they do see some work being put in with regards to reviews that they hope will change some of these insidious natures of our organization, and that they hope that these reviews lead to a, I guess, sorry, I'm losing words here, lead to a positive change for us in the way that we operate and our governance structure. So I will take any questions about that if anybody has any. But I guess all in all, there are some issues, and they hope to see some changes based on the information that they have been given with regards to the work that we are doing this year.
Thank you, Alana. I'll give a couple seconds in case anybody has any questions. Kanan, go ahead.
Sorry, that was by mistake. I don't know why I pressed enter on that. That's from previous time.
Just have things framed, all right? Seeing no questions for Alana, thank you for reading that out. We will proceed to the Board of Directors report. Ben?
Good morning, Council. Quick report from me. The board has met twice since I last reported. On the 8th of December, we had a special meeting where we discussed legal counsel relating to services and social media. Then at our January regular meeting on the 5th of this month, the board approved the Bomber Lounge plan conditional on a funding plan being returned to the board by the end of this term. We discussed vaccination and boost the staff and volunteers. We again discussed services and social media, and the board also approved a reallocation of our reserve investment accounts towards ESG funds. With respect to attendance, all voting members of the board were present at the December special and January regular meetings, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ben. I am seeing no questions for you. I will give another 5 seconds. Otherwise, we'll move on to the Applied Health Sciences Caucus. And seeing nothing, we will move on. Is there anybody from AHS?
Hi, this is Marie from the Applied Health Sciences Caucus. This month has been fairly slow, but in news, we have officially transitioned to the Faculty of Health name, so no longer Applied Health Sciences. And right now we are collecting / responding to feedback to our department name changes. The Department of Kinesiology and School of Public Health and Health Studies are currently considering name changes as well, so we're currently dealing with that business.
My apologies to the Faculty of Health. Are there any questions for them? Okay, seeing nothing, we can move on to arts.
So for the Arts Caucus, we obviously have our 2 new lovely counselors, Lily and Abby, that have joined us. And in addition to that, we really just starting off the term last week with a couple of ASU internal meetings and trying to basically map out the rest of the term.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for arts? Seeing nothing, we can move on to engineering.
All right, hi everyone, this is Frances here. We had Catherine join us just recently as part of our engineering caucus. Her mic isn't working right now, but She had a little intro that she typed to us to say, "Hey everyone, my name is Kat or Catherine. I'm a 3A mechatronics student and the ASOC president for Engineering Society, taking over from Delaney." She said she's so excited to meet all of us and learn more about council. Otherwise, in terms of updates from our constituents, no major updates. However, we did receive an email from of concern from a constituent earlier this month that we think likely represents concerns of a much greater population than just that individual. And that's just pertaining to, as Megan kind of spoke to right before her report, and Abby touched on it too, the uncertainty surrounding the spring term. In particular, the student was expressing anxiety about needing to find housing in the Waterloo area and how those arrangements would be compromised if they had to make a last-minute decision without those arrangements about spring term being like determined earlier on. And we just wanted to say that, like, we, or at least I will, I guess, continue to advocate as like the university determines how that'll work out. I'll continue to advocate for flexibility surrounding whether students can take classes online or be in person. If any of the other counselors have anything more to add, please go ahead.
We'll take that direct response from Megan after any other engineering counselors, but I'm not hearing any.
Oh, I mean, I could do my thing after Megan.
No, I prefer to get all the reports and then Megan can jump in.
Because it's like not really fully related, but I got the, yeah. I might be anxious. Okay, let Megan
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I haven't spoken with the university recently about a direction regarding like if students will have the option to study online, even if their course is supposed to be in person. So that was the direction several months ago, but I can reconfirm that direction and see if it's university-wide or if it's coming down to a faculty decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I'm not sure who else was speaking, but you can go ahead at this point.
Yeah, so not really related, but that's why I asked beforehand. But just so there's Hack the North this weekend, and I made a little library checker app, and I'm really proud of it. Basically, it allows you to because during exam season, for example, like DP library would be like packed, same with DC, and finding seats would be a pain in the ass. So it's a little app that lets you book seats ahead of time, and one of the main features is just that using an AR component, it lets you pick a Pokemon to actually guide you to your seat using your camera. And yeah, I just wanted to plug it. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anybody else in the Engineering Caucus with a report or questions? Okay, I'm seeing none, so we'll move on to environment. Is there anybody from Environment Caucus willing to give a report?
Hello, Steph here. Yeah, so on behalf of the Environment Student Society, we just wanted to announce that we're running a joint event with RAISE and Fossil For You Waterloo related to, I guess, the intersection between racial justice and environmentalism. So that's going to be happening on the 26th, and we're very excited for this partnership. I'm just going to include a link, I guess, within the meeting chat. A lot of our students have expressed interest in having curricula that considers more the social dimensions of kind of environmental impacts. So, you know, this is a huge, I guess, step in that direction for us. And we're really excited to bring this forward by working with a club and one of WUSA services.
Thank you, Steph. Is there anybody else or anybody with questions? Okay, seeing nothing additional, we can move on to Mathematics Caucus. I guess that, okay, Kanan, go ahead.
Hey everyone, just wanted to give an update. I've been working with the faculty of math to start a mentorship program for our first years. Even though we already had a mentorship program, but the demand is increasing a lot. So at the end of last term, I was working with some of the faculty members to help and support and give, I guess, both financial and communication support to increase that mentorship program so we can help more first years here who are having difficulty transitioning in an online setting. And I'm happy to report on 2 days ago, we became the largest mentorship program ever run on campus at a single time with over 600 first year students and 300 mentors. And I'm really proud of that. I think I said the numbers correctly.
That's excellent. Thank you, Kanan. Matthew?
Hi, I just wanted to, this is separate from my role at WUSA and in the Mathematics Caucus, but I just wanted to let WUSA know that I have recently been appointed by the City Council of Waterloo as the student representative on the Waterloo Economic Development Advisory Committee. And in that way, if there's, I'm not really sure what it would look like, but if anyone ever has anything that they think might fall into that way, might fall into that bucket, that they'd like to hear somebody say something about, I'd be happy to talk with anyone about it.
Congratulations, Matthew. Are there any more reports? I guess I will also say that this is my first term where I am not a MathSoc counselor, so please feel free to contact other MathSoc individuals about MathSoc things. Are there any questions for the Mathematics Caucus? Okay, seeing none, we can move on to the Science Caucus.
Hi, this is Carly from SciSoc here. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. We don't really have too much to report from SciSoc's perspective. We just finished our winter term coordinator hiring, so we're just getting set up for the term, and we're also just starting up our winter mentorship program, kind of just carrying it over from the fall term. So not too much to report other than that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any more individuals from the Science Caucus or any questions for them? Okay, I'm seeing none, so we will have Cambridge.
Hi, this is Jason from Cambridge campus. We don't have much to update other than we're having our elections for the upcoming term. And we're looking forward to see the results, and I'm hosting our next meeting next week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we can move to Kitchener.
Hi everyone, Amanda here from the Kitchener campus. The only thing I have to update on right now is that because our campus starts on a different timeline than the rest of the university, so we welcome our new cohort in January. We actually just finished wrapping up our orientation week for our new cohort that came in, so it was done fully online, and I think it sounds like it went really, really well. So that's quite exciting, and we're excited for them to join our campus. But that's everything for me today.
Glad to hear things are going well there. Do we have any questions for Kitchener? Okay, seeing nothing, we can move to Stratford. Okay, seeing nothing from Stratford, and if I just sent a request for approval, please ignore that. My computer is not doing the greatest right now. We will move on to St. Jerome's.
Hi everyone, this is Chanel from St. Jerome's. Currently we're just planning wellness programming, programming for engaging students, and working on launching our Farmer's Basket once again. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Are there any questions for St. Jerome's? Okay, I'm seeing none, so we'll move to Renison.
Hi everyone, it's Vicky here. For Renison, all I know we're planning is to do some sort of online virtual event to meet the profs like we have like when we're in person. Because I think students are really lacking being able to meet their profs in person because unless they are like second years and older, like second years up, they might not know their profs very well. So that's all that's happening at Renison.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Renison? All right, seeing none, we can move on to the Officers of Council reports. Abby, you can go ahead. I know you had most of your report in the President's, but we do have the new meeting dates to accept, I believe.
Yes. Thank you, John. As John mentioned, there are kind of some changes to some of the dates just based on elections, and with the moving of this date, it's better to just move some things around so that we're not too long without a meeting, but not have a meeting come up like next week, which is what we want to avoid, obviously, because I'd have nothing new to share with you. So the dates that will be moving forward with is February 14th and March 21st. I will note March 21st is also the weekend of the USA General Assembly, so we may need to be making some changes to that meeting as well, and possibly move it closer to the beginning of the month. As I just work out some dates and try to figure out the best placement for that meeting, I will notify everyone as we did this month via email. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can respond to the email that I send out. I don't think I need to accept them, John, because as officers of council, we can just set call meetings. So unless you want to, yeah. So I'm just more saying for information, that's when we'll be moving the next meetings to, and you'll receive calendar invites or renewed calendar invites at the end of this meeting, and hopefully I will remember to click distribute on the mailing list, and things will work out smoothly like they didn't last time. I think the only other thing that I have to add that John also might say is remember to check the attendance. In the follow-up email, I'm going to send out the link again. If there's anything from the last few meetings that doesn't look right, we take attendance, or I've been taking attendance about 30 minutes into the meeting to give you a little time to roll in, not penalize anyone for sleeping in a little bit longer. So if you've come in after that, you may have been missed on the attendance, and you should be letting us know that you were late. So I will send you over that link in a follow-up email, and just let us know so we can update the attendance accordingly. Yeah, I think that's about it for me. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Abby. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to my report. My report from last meeting has become a motion. In this meeting, we will get to it. I have nothing further to add. Are there any questions? Seeing nothing, we can move on to the secretary, Alana.
I don't have anything to report, but I will let Michael say anything if he feels like he wants to say anything.
I will try harder to get minutes up.
Appreciate your effort, Michael.
John, I'm just going to say, with the changing of the meeting date, we will not penalize Mike for not having the minutes for this meeting. So he's off the hook.
I wasn't planning on penalizing him anyway. Are there any questions for the secretary? Okay, seeing nothing, we will go to, oh, no, all right. Seeing nothing, we go to committees and commissioners. First thing we have is a report of the Policies and Procedures Committee submitted by President Simpson and myself. Whereas the December regular council meeting heard the first reading of the following policies, which subsequently had no changes made, then be it resolved, council approves the following policy as attached in Appendix D. It is policy X part. We have not given it a policy number yet. Again, motioned by President Simpson, seconded by myself already. Are there any questions on this? Or Abby, I guess you have the right to speak.
Yeah, the only thing I will add, from the last meeting, there was a request to modify the renew date. Policies and Procedures Committee has the ability to do that when we give it a policy number. So we're going to make that decision afterwards to be renewed in a year instead of the regular 2 or 3 years. So just letting you know that in case you were the person who asked that question last time, that the Policies and Procedures Committee will be setting that renewal date, and it doesn't need to be included here.
Thank you, Abby. As seconder, I have nothing to say. Are there any more questions, any statements about this? Excellent. I see nothing, so I'll bring this to a vote. Can all those opposed identify themselves in the chat? And all those abstaining likewise. Seeing nothing in opposition or abstaining, this motion passes, none opposed. We move to the speaking order. Sorry. Report of the Education Advisory Council submitted by Vice President Education Town. Vicky, why have you sent something saying Accessibility Commissioner report?
Vicky would like to speak after we've wrapped up these motions as a commissioner report.
I see. So submitted by Vice President Education Town. The motion is be resolved council gives leave to the first reading of the PPC. First reading of the following policies is attached in Appendix D. Policy 47, Gender-Based and Sexual Violence Prevention and Response. Motion by Vice President Education Town. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second.
I'll second it. Abby, sorry, Megan, go ahead.
Great. So yes, noting the clerical error in the live notes, this is an EAC policy. So this policy was drafted by my previous co-op student in the student research and policy assistant role, and went to EAC for a reading there. It is now at council for first reading. So if you have any questions or comments, please send them to me within about a week and a half. So let's give it until the 27th of January if you have any comments on the policy, and then we can incorporate them for when this policy comes back to council for approval. If anyone has any questions about the policy right now, I'm also happy to take them.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any questions for Megan? Comments on the policy? Okay, seeing nothing, I will move on and give leave to Vicky to present the Accessibility Commissioner report. Oh, sorry. Before we do that, we have to vote. My apologies. Can all those opposed or abstaining please identify themselves in the chat? Okay, seeing nothing, motion 4.5.2 passes, none opposed. I will now give leave to Vicky to present the Accessibility Commissioner report.
Hello, everyone. So as you know, I had my survey out. Abby touched on earlier. So if you could really promote it to the best of your ability, it would mean a lot to me because I feel like to get really good, rich data, I need more answers. So hopefully it will get more answers until the end of the month. Also in February, I hope to hold a focus group with people who have like disabilities to see more, like just get a group discussion going. That will come out. I still have to discuss with Abby more of the details, and I'm also going to work with like different people in the university to see how I should all form this, who are more knowledgeable on focus groups than me. Also, if anyone wants to, sorry, I have asthma. And if anyone wants to contact me, or if they know anyone who wants to contact me to have like a one-on-one conversation, or just answer my little questionnaire that I have, just to fill out as much detail as I want, they can contact me at accessibility@wusa.ca. Also, I've tried to reach out to lots of different platforms to get some more data. Some things I've heard are a little bit concerning that Abby knows. So look forward to that in my final report near April or March. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Vicky. Are there any questions for the Accessibility Commissioner? Okay, seeing nothing, we will move to business arising. There is no business arising. We will move to item 6.1 in general orders, I believe. Honorary Lifetime Membership Committee. This is submitted by President Simpson. Whereas the President is focusing on other matters related to COVID and the transition, then be it resolved that the Council suspends the Honorary Lifetime Membership Committee for the rest of the 2020-2021 governing year. Motion by Abby. Can I have a seconder?
Catherine seconds.
Catherine seconds. And Abby, go ahead.
Yeah, so as the motion kind of states, we're focusing on a lot of our, I guess, reviews this term and the complete overhaul of our transition, which I'm spending a lot of time working on. So just in the interest of time and knowing that there's other pressing matters than providing someone with honorary lifetime membership in the next governing year, I'm asking that we suspend this committee. I'll also note that at the last meeting, I was tasked with putting out a job. John, yourself, please.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was tasked with putting out a job description and promotion for the at-large membership seats, which I did not receive enough to even bring forward names for this committee. So we are going to try again next year. And do a better job at promoting our committee seats for at-large students. But I guess I'll just say with the timeline that we have to strike this committee and have names ready for the general meeting, it's just not going to happen this year. So I ask that you suspend.
Catherine, a seconder, would you like to speak?
Nope, nothing to add from me.
Okay. Are there any questions about this motion? Okay, seeing nothing, I will also voice my support for the motion, and I will bring it to a vote. Can all those opposed or abstaining identify themselves in the chat? Seeing nothing, this motion passes. None opposed. We move to item 6.2, detention of Hong Kong youth activists, submitted by President Simpson and myself. Whereas the UW alumni for Hong Kong and Waterloo Lion Rock Spirit have requested WUSA issue a statement on the detention of Hong Kong youth activists in China, then be it resolved that Council directs the Executive to issue a statement to this effect. This was submitted by Abby and myself. Once again, Abby, would you like to speak to this?
Sure, as long as you mute yourself, John. So we received this, you may have remembered this item from the last council meeting, which was included in the report of the Deputy Speaker. Just kind of for information, we received this email. We responded to the group and let them know that at this time we wouldn't be releasing a statement just because of the end of term, and we weren't sure how much capacity we would have. We were asked again to support, to, I guess, use our voices to support our students. The only additional information that I've kind of received in speaking with the university is that the alumni chapter, which sent us this email, is not affiliated with the University of Waterloo, in that the university doesn't recognize them. That shouldn't, I guess, be a hindrance for us to sign on, but I just wanted to kind of provide some additional information there that the university has not released a statement from this request, this similar request. But other than that, the information was provided in the appendices with all of the emails and resources that we received from this group. And if council passes this today, we will be putting a statement up on our news and updates website. And that would be about it. John, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, Abby. You covered everything. Is there anybody who has questions?
I guess, Mike, just have it noted that Catherine will be stepping away for this item.
I'd like Catherine to actually declare why. I have no idea why she's leaving. Catherine, would you like to clarify?
Sorry, John, I don't think that Catherine needs to clarify why she's stepping away for the item.
Okay, Catherine is not here at this point. She can be recorded as absent for this item, I suppose.
Yeah.
Kanan, go ahead.
This is a question for Abby. Abby, were you able to find the answer to my email? I know it was like pretty last minute, but do you think us having this stance will impact, like, I know we're not a huge organization, so like we might not even come in the eyes of the Chinese government, but is there even a remote possibility that the Chinese government could take action against our students in China because of this stance? And like it could as simply as like not letting them access UWaterloo websites, because I know like it is really difficult for students in China to access those websites right now.
That's a really good question, Kenan. I don't think I have an answer to that. That is like definitely a consideration to take into account when voting on this item. We want to make sure that our students from all over the world still have the ability to sign on and be a part of our campus community. If that's something that is of concern to council, then I would say vote in that way. I'm mostly just bringing this forward as requested by a group of our students and alumni. So if council is in support, then we're in support. And if we're not, then we're not, is kind of my response to that.
Lunch has become dinner, if you haven't heard.
Thank you, Abby. Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi there. Okay, this is going to be like difficult for me to say. And I want to preface this with the fact that like I do think that this is an important issue. I do think that this is a major example of a human rights abuse. And it is an important issue, and I appreciate the work that this organization is doing towards us. But simultaneously, I guess I'm wondering what impact adding our voices to this as an undergraduate student association in another country, I guess, like, is that really going to change the mind of the Chinese government on this, given that a lot of foreign entities and the UN have tried to speak up on this and have found resistance there, in particular as a school with a lot of international students from both Hong Kong and mainland China. You know, we have to keep in mind what, I guess, potential risk taking like a stance on this is going to have on them. As Cannon said before, there's concerns with firewalling our websites, perhaps not approving student visas for international students to come here, possible intervention in, I guess, student governance affairs, which I know sounds a little, I guess, like wonky or unreasonable, but just looking around, there's been cases like even in McMaster and U of T Scarborough campus, where there have been students expressing pro-Hong Kong sentiments who have been, I guess, identified by other students to the Chinese government with the intent to basically I guess put pressure on them not to be saying such things. I'm not really aware if this is happening on U Waterloo campus, but I don't really think it's in our best interest to I guess give them a reason to start that sort of activity happening here. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to express that opinion and just say that personally, I think we need to be prioritizing our students here. And that like it does suck that we can't take a strong stance on this, but I'm just like wondering, I guess in the grand scheme of things, our impact versus the possible risks that we imposed upon ourselves with this.
Thank you, Stephanie. Are there any further questions? Okay, I'm seeing none. Given the mixed messages coming from both individuals who have spoken, I'm going to send a message in. Abby, just nod your head if you think sending it in the chat would be fine.
I think sending it in the chat will be fine, John, because we didn't receive any requests for gallery.
All right, so if you could reply to that, Abby, what is the voting convention again? I don't think we've done one for this meeting. It's thumbs up for in favor.
Angry react for against and sad face for abstention.
I suppose.
Or no, it was wow. It was wow react for against, sad face.
Okay, so like my message if you're in favor, wow if you're against, and sad face if you're abstaining. Love our voting conventions, Abby. I'm mostly surprised Microsoft hasn't brought out just an emoji with an X and an emoji with a tick. Figured they would have done that sooner. Okay, we've got one in favor.
We need to move to Discord.
1 in favor, 6 against, 4 abstaining.
John, I think we're gonna have to wait because don't we need at least like 20 people to vote?
I'm not calling it now. I'm saying what it is right now. And we've got 15 out of 38.
According to my attendance, there are 34 people present. Just noting that.
I think those extra 4 people might be persons who might have joined late, and we need to 39 people who need to then identify themselves to you after this meeting so that we can make sure they're not marked as absent.
I just got a message from someone asking for the conventions again, so I'll just read them out one more time. If you are in favor, thumbs up. If you are an abstention, you will sad face. And if you are opposed, you will wow react. So the emoji.
Okay, it looks like we have 22 votes. I'll give another 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Voting is now closed. The vote count is 1 in favor, 14 against, and 7 abstaining. This motion fails.
And knowing that this motion has failed, I'll just give council an idea of what next steps look like. So I'm going to follow up with the groups that brought this forward to us, let them know the outcome and some of the concerns that we have. Jeffrey is also abstained, so it's actually 10, John. And then if there's any response, I will forward that along to council just so they are aware for information.
Okay, thank you for that, Abby. We will now move to item 6.3, knockout interest. Whereas the British Columbia Federation of Students runs a campaign called Knockout Interest, which successfully eliminated interest on the provincial portion of student loans in British Columbia. And whereas WUSA does not have a policy stance regarding interest on student loans, then be it resolved that council believes that due to the government's low borrowing rate, the government should not charge interest on student loans, and be it further resolved that council recommends that WUSA sign on the BCFS knockout interest campaign. This item is submitted by, I think I might have forgotten to put that on the agenda. Can I have a mover and seconder for this?
I'll move. It's submitted by Vice President, Education Town.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? I will second your motion, Megan.
Thank you.
Go right ahead.
So this is a campaign which I bring to you with more confidence. Hence, I have moved it as a motion as opposed to entertaining a discussion under my report. So the BCFS, no relation to CFSO or CFS, is running and continues to run a campaign called Knockout Interest. And it is my recommendation that council approve WUSA to sign on to the Knockout Interest campaign. Previously, WUSA had not had a stance on interest, so it would kind of require a motion of council to say that this is WUSA's stance, that we believe that students should not be charged interest on their loans. And just to explain the borrowing rate comment. So it was my previous understanding that, the government was charging interest simply to recoup interest that they had incurred by moving this money around. And the government of Canada's borrowing rate is quite low. So it's the government, it doesn't actually cost very much money for the government to borrow money, so they are essentially making money off of students by charging them interest. So knowing that interest often comprises a significant portion of the money that students need to pay back for their loans, I suggest that we join onto this campaign. And what that would look like varies from year to year. So it might involve, in a normal year, kind of some boothing and promoting it, as well as including it in our advocacy discussions. In this year, it predominantly involves support on social media. And I think that given that this is an issue which affects many of our domestic students and kind of falls under that purview of student financial aid, it's something that would fit well into the existing advocacy that we do with UCREW as it relates to student financial aid.
Thank you for that, Megan. I have nothing to say as seconder. Are there any questions for Vice President Education?
It was a disaster. It was on mozzarella.
Okay, I'm seeing none. So, Megan, I guess I will just bring this to a vote. Can all those in opposition or abstaining please identify themselves? Okay, seeing nothing, this motion passes, none opposed. We can move to item 6.4, university guidelines for third-party learning resources. I see nothing in this motion. I don't know who submitted it either. I might again have forgotten to leave that. Oh, this is Megan. Megan, go right ahead, and I'll just
Hi.
second it.
This is just a discussion. So I wanted to let council know that I've been engaging with the university working group that is discussing guidelines for third-party learning resources. So if folks are not familiar, there is a university document that governs third-party learning resources other than textbooks. So if you're thinking about like Top Hat or thinking about like any other like access code that you would purchase to go along with your course that you have to do assessments through, that is covered under this guideline. So the university is predominantly working to make the guideline clearer because the language that it previously had was a little bit confusing. But I just wanted to share a couple pertinent points for students. So we are keeping at this time the cost, which the resource cannot exceed, at $50, and the grade value, which can be associated with the resource, at 20%. If the cost is more than $50 or the grade value exceeds 20%, then the instructor must provide students with a no-fee alternative assessment that gives students an equitable opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge. And then this new version also includes an exception protocol. So exceptions can be granted by the associate deans of the faculty for a cost of up to $100 and a percentage of graded work up to 35%. And then the exceptions will be shared with the Associate Vice President Academic of the university to kind of monitor what's going on there. It is also possible for the Associate Vice President Academic of the university to issue an exception where the cost of a learning resource exceeds $100 and the percentage of graded work exceeds 35%. And then the Associate Vice President Academic of the university will consult with WUSA in those cases. So this is something that I have been doing on a case-by-case basis through COVID, as instructors have been kind of finding novel ways to run their course and using additional learning resources. So that is the plan for the process going forward. So I just wanted to share this information with everyone and hear if anyone has any concerns at this point that they would like me to bring back to the working group.
Thank you. Iman, I think you are next on the speaking list. Go ahead.
Hi, I just have a question. So what kind of exceptions, if you have any examples and reasons for why professors would need this, if you could speak to that?
So I can give a couple of examples. So this guideline is structured around the idea that instructors, for example, are going to have students pay for Top Hat and then do quizzes on Top Hat, where the instructor is not necessarily making the course content. They're taking someone else's course content and assessing students on that. So that's part of the reason why we want to keep that graded percentage low. But there's some situations where there is kind of a useful tool that students can access by paying for it online. And then they can be assessed based on work done through that tool, but it is still content that's kind of created by the instructor and a unique assessment. So sorry, excuse me, I'm just eating my lunch here. So an example of this was a family studies course that we granted an exception for, and that course had the students doing like an online simulation, and then a significant portion of their grade was dedicated to assessing, or I guess, reflecting on it and writing essays based on prompts provided by the instructors and relating it to course content. So in that case, I think upwards of 60% of the students' course grade was technically based on this online assessment, but it was more related to like the essay component and the connections to course content that students were using in the assessment. Another example that happened during COVID was an instructor, I believe it was for a kin course, who instructed students to purchase a replica skeleton that had a significant level of detail that could be used to kind of learn about the, I don't know, the features of the skeleton, like what the bones look like and what different features look like, and like more than just like this bone is this and that bone is that. So those are a couple examples of exceptions that we've granted so far. And generally the premise for the exceptions is that it's providing a valuable learning experience to the student as opposed to them just going through like online quizzes that the instructor didn't develop.
That makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both. Are there any more questions? Megan, were you seeking to get something out of this or just a discussion?
Just a discussion, just to hear if anyone had any concerns that I can bring back to the working group.
Okay, is there anybody else? All right, I'm not seeing anything. Oh, yes, Kanan. Go ahead, Kanan.
Hi, Megan. Well, not directly related to the policy itself, but I think it would be a good idea that if an instructor is getting an exception to use third-party apps, that they should be telling that this is an exception happening for this course. A lot of times students don't even know about this policy and they can't really then petition or file a grievance against the course instructor otherwise. So I think making it mandatory for the course instructor to write it in the course syllabus that this course will have an exception to this policy because of XYZ would be a good idea.
Okay, I'll make a note. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Last chance for any questions, comments on item 6.4. Going once, going twice. Okay. That's it for this item. Thank you, everyone. We move to 6.5, temporary adjustment to elections procedure. Whereas COVID-19 is affecting students' abilities to safely campaign in person, and whereas we are currently in a provincial lockdown until the end of January, and whereas the Elections and Referendum Committee and the Chief Electoral Officer approved temporary changes to the elections and referendum procedure as found in Appendix A, then be it resolved that Students' Council approves temporary changes to the elections referendum procedure as found in Appendix A, and be it further resolved that temporary changes to the procedure will expire May 1st, 2021. This is submitted, I believe, by President Simpson. Are there any seconders? Can I have a seconder? Okay, I will second this. Oh, who was that?
It looks
Vicky,
like
yes,
second.
you can second it. And Abby, you can go ahead.
Thanks, John. So essentially, with some changes to some in-person events, such as like our regular polling booths, this needs, and I guess regular scheduled campaigning, this procedure needs to come into place because we can't have students defying stay-at-home orders, especially within the province of Ontario, to campaign for our elections. So at the all candidates meeting, there will be additional resources provided, and our marketing team has been working to do some additional promotions of elections. So you'll receive, if you are running, if you are a candidate running, I don't think you can vote on this if you're a candidate running, because I think that's conflict of interest, but no, you don't think so?
You can vote for yourself. Voting's anonymous anyway.
No, I'm saying voting on this issue. I'm just letting people know that if they're concerned about candidates not having similar avenues, we will be working hard with all those running to do better promotion with learnings from the by-elections.
You're right, Abby. If there was a candidate with a significant proportion of mail-in ballots versus in-person voting, they would be interested in not counting the away ballots, I suppose.
I guess we just don't have the capacity for mail-ins So it's more just outlining that all voting will take place online. If there are extenuating circumstances, we will handle those on a case-by-case basis.
All right, Mike, if you can just stay tuned to the chat where the plethora of conflict of interests are coming in.
Yep. Anybody who writes a conflict of interest in the chat, I will just list those people down. Is that okay?
Yep, that's great.
Okay.
Are there any questions on the seconder, Vicky, you have the right to speak.
I don't have anything to report.
All right, are there any questions?
Oh, Catherine, please mute yourself.
Yep.
I think half of council is abstaining on this. I'm just going to give another 30 seconds for people to keep declaring their conflicts. Maybe it'll be easier for people to declare if they don't have a conflict. Okay, let's just chill out for a bit and let the conflicts come in.
Should we just like put in the chat, if you have a conflict of interest, please thumbs up.
I think this is everything. Haven't seen anything. It's been 1 minute. It's been 1 minute with nothing new. So I am going to proceed. Are there any more questions to do with this item 6.5? Okay, I'm seeing nothing. So we will proceed to a vote. Anybody, don't send those messages again. Anybody abstaining for a different reason, please let us know in the chat. If you're opposed, also let us know.
John's dog is highly opposed.
Not even my dog.
I also need
Thank
you
you,
to know
Megan.
that you alarmed my dog.
Okay, I think that is enough time. This motion passes with none opposed and the 1,000,000 abstentions. We have finished general orders. We are now in new business. Does any councillor wish to raise an item of new business? Is that none? Or does someone have their hand
Megan
up?
has one.
Megan does have one. Oh, Megan, go ahead then.
Yeah, so there was one additional discussion that Abby and I wanted to bring to council, and it is regarding the spring term. So we have received word from the university that they are looking into modifying the spring term schedule. Essentially, it would postpone the start date of the spring term by 1 week and accordingly shorten the exam period to retain the same number of teaching days while still leaving a 2-week break in between the spring term and the fall term. We received this information relatively recently, so we didn't have the opportunity to ask any questions yet, but we just wanted to flag this for council to see if anyone had any concerns or any questions that they would like us to ask.
Yes, my question is, given the university's refusal to do anything besides exams, where do they see people getting grades from if they're going to condense the, what's it, usually 3-week exam period into 2 weeks? Because people already have conflicts as it is. That would be my question to them.
Okay. John, have the conflicts specifically been occurring during remote delivery?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so with remote delivery, my understanding is that there's a significantly decreased number of scheduled examinations. So exams that instructors are asking the registrar to schedule. So if instructors are running exams but not asking the registrar to schedule them, that could be how conflicts arise. So that is an instructor by instructor issue and a communication issue between the university and instructors. Sorry, Abby, go ahead.
I was just going to kind of add here that in the winter term, if you took a look at the changes that Megan and I were able to be a part of, they've also condensed, or at least that was my understanding, that this exam period as well has been condensed because there are fewer examinations taking place kind of across the board with new, what will I say, with new, I guess, oh my gosh, what's the word? Recommendations for online learning. So I'll just kind of add that we're already seeing fewer examinations in the university is kind of taking that into consideration when moving around dates for term by term.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Abby. And thank you, Megan, for answering my question. Are there anybody, is there anybody opposed to us continuing this discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody opposed, so great. Thank you. We are back in order. Edward, go ahead.
Hi, I guess my question is the university planning on adding any more breaks in the middle of spring term? Because I know traditionally spring term has kind of been the shorter term out of the three already, so getting over the week might condense even further, and I see Megan shaking her head.
Sorry, Edward got really quiet there for me at the end, but I presume that he acknowledged me shaking my head. No, the university is not planning to add any breaks.
Okay, thank you both. Are there any further questions? Steph, Edward, you can have a direct response, then we will move to Stephanie.
It's more of a new point. Let Steph go first.
Okay, Stephanie, go ahead.
I guess this is kind of an expansion of Edward's question in a way. Okay, basically, like on one of my course syllabi, I saw something where the professor had referenced that during the winter term, apparently the vice president academic of the university had said that there would be certain grace days wherein like they were meant to function like reading week. They were just days in which like no teaching or whatnot was supposed to occur. I was just wondering, I guess, to ask Megan or Abby specifically, is like, is this a thing that's occurring all across the board? Or is this just something that my prof just put in?
Thank you, Steph. Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, so the university did implement additional study days in the winter term. They fall like just before exams, if I recall correctly.
So to answer your question, Steph, yes, it is across the board.
Thank you both. We can move to Edward with his new point. Edward with his new point. Edward, you're muted.
Yes, sorry, my internet was having issues and now I'm just back online. I guess my question to Megan is, was the university looking for like feedback? Like, do we have any say in this matter at this point?
I don't know. How about you give us your feedback and we'll see what we can do. I would note that the delay, from my understanding, is primarily motivated by giving instructors more time to prepare their courses, as opposed to being motivated by giving students a break. That's just kind of a side effect from my understanding. But I'm happy to take any feedback that you have back to the registrar.
Yeah.
Edward, go ahead.
At this point, I feel that the instructors have had a year to be aware of remote learning. If they need that extra week of time, I think that's just poor planning on their part. I do recognize that there's a lot happening during terms and additional time might be helpful, but I think they've had enough leniency for the past 3 terms. I think at this point, because spring term is already so condensed for students, trying to fit content into that is going to put more pressure on them. Spring term is already considered the condensed term out of the 3 terms at Waterloo because there is no reading break. So students are already struggling as it is. So taking away an extra week of, time, I don't think it's in the best interest of students.
So I suppose this would be Steph with a direct response to that direct response before Steph's new point? No new point. Steph, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I disagree with that. I at least from COVID has been pretty hard on everyone, and I feel like we need to be understanding and compassionate, and even from I guess a strategic standpoint, as a student association, if we demonstrate understanding towards the professors and the various barriers that they face within it, instead of just demanding everything, then we build a better relationship with those profs, and we're able, when we ask for compassionate grading or grace days or consideration or stuff like that, it's a give and take thing. We're all in this, not to quote High School Musical, but we're all in this together. So I think just from a strategic standpoint, in building good relationships and getting what we need to, that I disagree with that.
Thank you, Steph. Are there any individuals besides Kanan, Edward, and Stephanie that would like to speak before we go to Edward's direct response?
I haven't spoken yet.
You haven't spoken. Oh, Kanan, go ahead.
Stephanie covered one of my points that being compassionate to professors is something we should be considering. I sit on a few faculty committees where professors have come up saying the amount of stress that they are facing in an online environment is difficult, especially if they're doing 3 consecutive terms of teaching 2 courses per term. It is a lot. I think a week-long break would be good for them because they get some time to also recharge and are less grumpy, I guess, at the beginning of the term. My second point to Edward said that spring term is condensed and trying to fit the same amount of content in a even more condensed term. It's we're not reducing the number of weeks we have to study or teach. It's the number of exam period that has been reduced by a week. So, and right now, we all have exams happening. Maybe sometimes we have 2 exams a day, sometimes we have 1 exam a day, but with the reduced number of exams we are having in at least a few of our courses, I think it makes sense. And it also just gives students some kind of break to relax at the beginning of summer, I believe.
All right, thank you, Kanan. Edward, I will give you 30 seconds.
Okay. Okay. Kanan's point makes sense. I also do think, though, that the university is being a bit double talk because they are phasing out some of the COVID leniencies on their end for students. So I think it's reasonable that we try and get the compassionate grading and other leniencies back for students as well. Then.
Megan, I said I would stop taking points, but I will give you 30 seconds as you brought this up.
Yeah. I was just going to echo what Kanan said for clarity, that the number of teaching days is not reduced. So the original spring term schedule had 60 scheduled teaching days, and the proposed new schedule also has 60 scheduled teaching days. Abby and I have just been kind of talking on the side here. So I'm going to put a straw poll in the chat for an idea to add a break. So essentially the university has found an additional week to take a break off at the beginning of term. I'm wondering if folks think it would be beneficial to take a half week off at the beginning of the term and then another half week off somewhere in the middle of the term. So a short break at the beginning for instructors, and then similar to the original fall reading break pilot, a couple extra days added on to a weekend somewhere in the middle of term. So I'm going to put another straw poll in the chat. At this stage, I don't know if we would be able to get this sort of thing from the university, but I just would like to gauge folks' opinion since we're here having this discussion. So I'll let folks thumbs up the straw poll message that I just sent in the chat, and return my time to John. Sorry, that was more than 30 seconds.
That's fine. And I believe it is a WoW react if you are against the struggle. Yes.
John, I'll kind of add that I know that we always receive questions and comments about the topic of a spring reading week. That was something that I proposed in the fall term, and the university wouldn't be open to a full week just with the number of teaching days required for the term. So having this kind of half week somewhere would be a better ask to go into the university with, because we probably would not receive a full week. So just adding in that extra. Yeah, so Rebecca, I guess just to answer your question, the way I kind of typed it out here is like, so if say a term started on the Wednesday of that first week, and that's the first day, then at some other point in the semester, you would get a Monday to Wednesday off. Similar to the teaching days that we just, that Stephanie just spoke to, that you'll receive this term, we would hope for the same thing. So that's what we would ask for. That doesn't mean we'll get it. It means that that's just, we're trying to gauge if that's something that people would be interested in, so then we can move forward and ask for that. But this is not a promise that we're going to receive it.
Okay, thank you, Abby. I think that is everything. Is there another item of new business? It would seem that there are none. So we can move on to announcements. The next meeting is set for February 14th. Abby has a point. Abby, is this for after the announcement or in the announcement?
In the announcement.
All right, so the next meeting is set for February 14th. You guys are all my Valentine. Starting at 10:30 a.m. on Microsoft Teams. Abby, go ahead.
Great. So I'm going to be sending most of this in the follow-up email, so don't feel like you need to remember this right away. I just wanted to say it verbally in case you don't read that email. I hope you do, because I find them very helpful. I just want to bring to your attention that Winter Welcome Week will start next week. So that's the 18th to the 22nd. We'll have a lot of events for students, like Beyonce, TikTok, dance tutorials, some workshops for students, sex toy bingo, things like that, all happening online. So look out for that and make sure that you're following our socials, so at your WUSA, to learn more about how you can sign up and engage with that programming. I'll also note that clubs and societies, the clubs and societies community is up on Facebook, and they'll be promoting club activity and society activity by sharing videos and interacting with students there from the 25th to February 5th. So keep an eye out for that, and I'll be sending the link to in the follow-up email. I'll also remind everyone to check out the accessibility survey. Again, I'll send the link in the email, but just another reminder to please share that with people within your community and with your constituents. And a last final announcement to check your attendance, especially if you showed up late today and were marked as unexcused. I would like to reflect that in the attendance log, so that you are not put down as having missed this meeting when you were here, you just came in late. Other than that, I'll be including some additional materials in the follow-up email, so please stay tuned for that. And if you are a representative and you would like something like, for example, the ESS Raise and Fossil Fuel UW event link, I'll be sending in that follow-up email. So if you have something similar that you would like included, please send it over to me by 2 o'clock, and I'd be happy to send that out to the council mailing list.
All right, everyone. I don't think there are any more announcements. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Okay, hearing nothing, this meeting is adjourned at 12:41 p.m. Everyone enjoy your Sunday.
Thanks so much.
Have a great Sunday, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day and lots of coffee.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.